painting to photography, from beadwork to woodworking. KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University presents Art Beat. Art Beat highlights the work and accomplishments of local artists from in and around Winona. Support for Art Beat is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Today on Art Beat, we speak with Frozen River Film Festival jury member, Winona State University professor, and filmmaker Kay Hannahan. The Frozen River Film Festival is one of Winona's biggest festivals, inviting many talented filmmakers to present unique films in the Winona County area. Local and even filmmakers from all over the world participate in this event to bring to you film experiences that inspire curiosity and connection. I'm Kenneth Goroztieta, bringing you Kay Hannahan from the Frozen River Film Festival today on Art Beat.
So my name is Kay Hannahan. I'm a professor in the Communication and Media Department at Winona State University, and I was a juror this year at the Frozen River Film Festival for the features jury and on the Minnesota jury.
So what can you tell me about the hiring process to get on the jury for Frozen River Film Festival?
There was really no hiring process. I was just asked, I think, as a filmmaker. I'm trying to think who else was on the jury. So there was a few filmmakers, mostly filmmakers actually, on the jury. So I think as a filmmaker, not screening anything in the festival this year, and because I'm local at Winona State to the festival, the director just asked me if I would volunteer. It's basically, you volunteer time to watch a bunch of films over Christmas break. Then you meet with the jury afterwards. There's maybe like 5 members, and you kind of discuss all the films and see which ones rise to the top, and then kind of go from there, talk through them and see which one you want to award the best film prize to. But yeah, there was really no hiring process. It was just kind of an ask, and I volunteered to do it.
Okay, that's neat.
Yeah.
You mentioned watching the films over Christmas. Are you, as a member of the jury, do you have to watch every single film? Do you really have a choice in the films that you watch, or is there like a process? Yeah,
so there's a screening committee at Frozen River, and they do kind of the initial watching of all of the films that come in, and then there's a rating system, so you can kind of see their comments when you watch the film. But then I think the screening committee, along with the artistic director, who was Tara Tallman this year, they then narrowed it down to, for the Minnesota prize, I watched 8 films, and for the feature prize, I watched 6 films. So they kind of narrowed it down to their top films, and then we watched from there. So it wasn't all of the films, but it still felt like a lot of films to watch in a short period of time.
Yeah. And that time frame, was it only during Christmas break, or?
Yeah, so I think they wanted to know, the festival was in February, so they wanted to have a little bit of time to, I think they printed awards this year, so we needed to give them our answers by mid-January, I think. So yeah, we had about like a month and a half to watch the film.
When I saw a couple of the films, a couple were 5 minutes, others were over an hour. How difficult was to, I'd say, compare one to the other?
Yeah. So for the feature jury, all of them are feature length, so that's a kind of an evener playing field. But yeah, for the Minnesota jury, they were feature, mid-length, and short together. So it was kind of tricky to kind of compare them, because a short is very different. I mean, you can tell a very different story in a short than you can in a feature. And I think the one that I really was drawn to, that I liked the most, was called This Land, and it was about access and equity of owning land, farmland specifically in Minnesota. And it was a pretty scrappy film. It wasn't the most kind of had like a great high production value. They had some Skype interviews and or Zoom interviews, and it was, I think, more of a kind of like a research project, but I thought the subject matter was super interesting. and about just how hard it is to own land, especially in Minnesota, and kind of the racial gap between who owns land and who doesn't. So that one was, I thought, really well produced, and that was a feature length, but then the other kind of top three behind that were all shorts. And I think it's, it's definitely easier to make a short because of that time frame. So I really also liked Every Day is a Parade, which was about the art car parade in Minneapolis. And that was just a really great short because it was just a bunch of eccentric people who make their cars into pieces of art. So they're just really great subjects to interview and to follow around. And it was just like a really fun piece. So they were really different. Like this land was really kind of serious and kind of really had a hard task of kind of digging into this subject matter and, finding out the facts. And they did maybe like 15 interviews, and it was really, more in depth than Every Day is a Parade. But there's something about like just a kind of a little perfect short that is really satisfying to watch as well. So yeah, it's hard to compare lengthwise, but I think I just try to focus on story, a good story, and what I learned from it as well. Every Day is a Parade. It's 15 Minutes by Deacon Warner. That one's a really fun one. I met him at the festival, and he said that it was a really easy short to make because it was only a few days that he shot. Some shorts you take years to make, even though it's a short. But this one, he said, it only took him a few days because he really followed a few people in this one parade that were kind of decorating their cars and getting ready for the parade and participating in it. So it was kind of he said it was a really satisfying short to make because it was pretty straightforward and didn't take very, very much time.
You mentioned that Deacon was there in person. I noticed a lot of the screenings were online. Comparison to other years, how is that any different than the previous years, seeing people or having screenings online in comparison to having them in a theater or in a ballroom?
Yeah. This year, they moved from the Frozen River Film Festival, moved from the Winona State campus into the ARC building, the old Masonic temple. And that space is really cool. It's really eccentric and just really unique. And so that was kind of a fun venue for the festival this year. And then since COVID, I'm not sure specifically to Frozen River, but I know generally for film festivals, they usually weren't online. And then when COVID hit, a lot of them went online and then realized that they could actually reach more people online. So a lot of festivals now will kind of do two passes, either an online pass or an in-person pass. But obviously the part of the joy of watching a film is watching it with other people and talking with them after, and the Q&As with the filmmakers. And so you really can only get that kind of experience in person, but it is cool to be able to screen films that, you wouldn't necessarily see anywhere else, and have that access at home if you need it. So it's kind of cool that they do both online and in person.
Yeah. And I saw it was free for all WSU students, I believe, if they had a...
Yeah. I think it's like a $50, usually that pass, a student pass is $50, but they give free passes to Winona State students, so that's also a really cool opportunity for students. And the Frozen River Film Festival is the only documentary film festival in Minnesota. So that's also cool that we have it in Winona, kind of in our backyard at Winona State. So it's a cool opportunity for students to get involved and to watch things. And I have so many students who I would say, documentaries aren't really my thing. But I think that we're used to kind of the idea of boring, really expository, like voice of God documentaries. But I think hopefully I'm teaching students that documentary can be a really creative endeavor as well. So, and Frozen River Film Festival also programs a lot of really unique and creative documentaries. So hopefully it's expanding people's understanding of what documentary can be.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, especially having last semester the Living History documentary project.
Oh, yeah.
Just having insight on how documentaries are made and how stressful it can be. Definitely gives me more respect for, I guess, directors and producers that make documentaries.
Yeah, that's great. And like you learned, like a 12-minute documentary, it's only 12 minutes, but it takes so much longer, and there's so many decisions, creative decisions that go into it, what to leave out, what to put in, how to tell the story. So many creative decisions that really make it more subjective than people think. People usually think a documentary is just this objective reflection of reality, but it's really a lot more subjective than that because of all those creative choices.
In terms of documentaries, you mentioned this land, kind of farms, and I believe you said like segregation or something along those lines.
That I'm just looking at their kind of their website, but it's really about how unequal land ownership is and how racialized it is. So most landowners are white, and just about kind of the racial wealth gap when land gets passed on and is kept in the family, and how that reverberates for generations in access and wealth for people who have not been given land and can't afford to buy it because it's gotten so expensive.
In the other documentary you mentioned, it was parades in Minneapolis. I guess they're completely different things. So I'm just curious as to what were some other unique documentaries that were presented in the Frozen River Film Festival.
Yeah, there were so many good ones. There was a film called A Life in Motion, and that was a short documentary about a skateboarder from Minnesota, but he lives in LA now. And it was kind of just about his kind of outlook on life and the meaning of life, and kind of living outside of the normal 9-to-5 job, and kind of living by his own terms as a professional skateboarder. So that was a really beautiful film. And there was another really great short film called We Are Healed by Stickball, which was about Ojibwe communities kind of picking up the game of lacrosse, which is traditional to Ojibwe culture, but has kind of been lost in a lot of the assimilation campaigns and boarding schools. And so now it was about a community kind of telling how important the game of stickball was to healing themselves from the trauma of colonialism, and just how important it is to their culture. So that was a really beautiful film. Another one I really liked was called Third Act, and that was a feature film that played at a lot of really prominent film festivals like Sundance and 50 film festivals it had played at. But it was kind of about this filmmaker whose dad was also a filmmaker. So it was about kind of his relationship with his dad, and then he also had a son. So it was also about him being a father and his relationship to his son, and about his dad's experience in the World War II internment camps as a Japanese filmmaker. And so it was kind of working through that trauma, and then also his dad's Parkinson's diagnosis, and kind of coming to terms with his dad's death, and kind of making a film about all of the intersections of all of these things. And so that was a really beautiful film. And then, I mean, there's so many. Should I keep going, or is that enough? Sure, yeah. The last one I'll mention is Relentless Memory, which was a really beautiful feature film about that took place in Argentina, and it was about the Mapuche people who were forcibly removed from their land, expelled from their land, and it was about this researcher who found this diary of a Mapuche man and kind of followed his diary entries through the land. So it was kind of this like parallel story of his diary and then her journey through this land, meeting people today and kind of learning about their stories through this diary and through people today. And so it was really an original film, super touching and really unique. So I'd say those were kind of my top films. Oh, and then 25 Cats from Qatar was also really great. That was about, there's more cats that live in Qatar than people do. I think there's 3 million cats that are street cats in Qatar. And so it was about this woman from Kansas who owned a cat cafe, and she went to Qatar to adopt 25 cats from the streets. And so it was kind of about her journey, and meeting all these people who are trying to rescue the cats on the ground in Qatar. So that was also a really kind of fun film. More cats than people.
Wow.
Yeah, they said that in the beginning of the film that a lot of foreign workers move to Qatar to just find odd jobs, and then when they move home and they usually adopt a cat or find a cat or a pet, and then when they move back to where they're from, they just leave the cats there. So it's because they have so many foreign workers that move there to find work that they have just this kind of abundance of street cats.
Yeah, I mean, all these documentaries really just have really different themes. I guess they're really broad. How does the jury really decide which one is a winner? Is it like production quality, depth of, I guess, emotion?
Yeah, I think probably it's interesting, that we all had the same, like maybe out of like the 5 of us, we'd have maybe one film that was out of place or like was maybe lower in our list than everyone else's. But for the majority of films, like we all had the same top 3 films. So I think you're right. It's about emotion and story and character and themes. And I would say production quality, yes, but I think, like you said, emotion even more than that. I think production quality can slide if it's a good story and it's touching in some way.
Of the Q&A panels that happened, were they interactive? How did those turn out?
Yeah, so usually there's a moderator who kind of starts asking questions with the filmmaker, and then usually they'll open it up to the audience and let the audience ask any questions that they want.
You mentioned the jury is made up of mostly filmmakers. I guess, given history or background, what are some films or what is some experience that you have in filmmaking?
Let me see, what year was that? I graduated from film school. I went to film school at Temple University, and I graduated in 2016. So I got my Master's of Fine Arts in Filmmaking from there. And then my first real documentary that I made was my thesis film, actually, from film school. And that was about extreme population decline in Bulgaria. So I went back to the village I trained in as a Peace Corps volunteer. And I actually saw this photo essay in the Washington Post about extreme population decline in Bulgaria. And I kind of, even though it was in a different village, I kind of recognized that story as an experience that I had experienced in the Peace Corps. So I went back to that village and shot a short film that was 17 minutes. And that was kind of my first introduction to the film world. So I screened that at a bunch of festivals and traveled to a bunch of festivals. That was really cool. I went to like Kiev, Ukraine, and Bulgaria, and I traveled all over Montana, following this film. So that was a really cool experience. And then The Atlantic picked it up, which was even cooler. So then it had like millions of views within a few days. And so that was a really great exposure. Yeah, yeah. And then, and then I've just kind of been making short films since. So I made one, I got a Fulbright grant to go to Budapest, and I made a film there about the rise of authoritarianism. And then I just finished another one about Bulgaria, it's kind of a portrait of the village I lived in as a Peace Corps volunteer, which is a minority Muslim village. So it's kind of structured by the call to prayer. And it's just kind of like a portrait of a day in the life of the village, kind of. So I'm going to actually be screening that at the Minnesota Film Festival in Duluth in April.
The one where you went to Ukraine, and that just seems like really, really broad, really interesting to see how you can travel the whole world and still stay on the same documentary. Yeah, usually you have like a year from the first festival you get into, you have kind of a year to tour the film. And then after that year, you usually look for like an online platform, or you try to sell it to some kind of like streaming company like Canopy or something like that. I mean, on the subject of documentaries, you also run or take head of the Living History documentary program here at Winona State. What can you tell me about that process?
That project is, I have been honored to take it on. It's been a class that's run for, I want to say like 15 years. So Tom Greer and Jim Reynolds started it together. And then Robin O'Callaghan took it over for a while, and then I've been teaching it maybe for the last 4 years. And I think that's a really cool class because it allows me and the students to learn more about our university. And even after we make those films and learn about the people who have changed Winona for the better, I still continue to think about them like on campus. I think we made one about Amy Welch, who was a horticulturalist, and she was really kind of known for her flower arrangements on campus. And so I still think of her when I go by like a dead flower or something. I think of Amy and how she wouldn't like that. So those stories kind of stay with you and kind of change the way that you think about the university and being a part of it. So I think it's a special project for everyone involved, the students, and then of course the retirees also to, get a chance to see their stories on screen is really special for them. And, I've gotten some really nice thank you notes after the screening, just how touched that people were to see kind of how, we really, took the time to tell their stories in the best way we could. So yeah, that's a cool class that I'm glad is still running through communication and media.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest classes I've taken here at Winona State.
That's great.
Yeah, just given the complexity of, again, documentaries and how difficult it is to make them, and even also how much time we have to make them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said.
Yeah.
Making documentaries, even just if it's 5 minutes, it can take years to shoot.
Yep.
So, yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's a true labor of love. Not very many documentary filmmakers make money from it. So usually you have to do something else to, have a living, but then try to work it in on the side somehow.
You mentioned having your film in another Minnesota documentary film festival. Did you ever have any films for the Frozen River Film Festival?
I've never screened at the Frozen River Film Festival, but hopefully I will with this next film. I'm hoping to screen it in this upcoming festival. So in 2027, I haven't submitted yet, but I'll submit soon, and then hopefully have a screening. And then I also hope to screen it just on campus at some point for students and faculty as well. So stay tuned.
Thank you very much for really just appearing on this interview with us. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.
I am a professor in the Communication and Media Department at Winona State, and I was on the jury for the Minnesota jury and the features jury this year for the Frozen River Film Festival, and am just a true documentary lover.
Thanks again to Kay Hannahan for joining us today on ArtBeat. For more information on the Frozen River Film Festival, visit their website at frff.org. For more conversations on art, tune into ArtBeat Tuesdays at 12:30 p.m. right here on 89.5 KQAL. Find podcasts of ArtBeat and other KQAL shows at kqal.org or the KQAL app. ArtBeat is made possible by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
ArtBeat is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University. Visit us on the web at kqal.org.